for joining me today. I am going to be reviewing the Nars Dual Intensity blushes that they just came out with. So I actually have a review on the Dual Intensity eyeshadows that came out last year, I think in July, and I'll link that down below. So now they're kind of doing the same thing for eyeshadows. So let me show you guys what these look like. It is basically two different color blushes in one compact. One is supposed to be a highlighter right here and one is a blush. Even with colors like this though, it is not a bronzer highlight duo at all. It is not like a contour kit type thing at all, so don't get confused. I will tell you guys why in a second. So these are $45 a piece, which is pretty hefty, I will say. It is 0.21 ounces or 6 grams. And in comparison to the Nars powder foundations, it's a tiny bit smaller. So this is the Nars powder foundation size. And this is the Dual Intensity blushes. You guys can kind of get a feel of that. So in terms of packaging, I love Nars packaging. You guys know I'm such a sucker for them. Like, I think it just looks so high-end, so expensive. It's that nice matte velvet finish. And we have two colors in here. My only problem with this is that they're very skinny, long blushes, so you have to be careful with the type of brush that you use with it, because a lot of people use bigger brushes for blush, and that will kind of go to the other side. So you do have to be picky about that. Nars has released 6 of these. That means 12 different colors. All the colors, for the most part, come with a highlight shade and the actual blush shade. So the two that I have are Craving, which I showed you guys, and Jubilation. So they kind of have a similar theme going. I really like these bronzy colors, so that is kind of what I went for. One of them, which is Craving right here, has a translucent, transparent, pinky sort of highlight. It's got a pink base on it for sure. And then Jubilation has a yellow gold one right here. So let me tell you guys, these are super pigmented. This is just one little like touch, and you guys can see how much it came out with. You guys already saw, let me show you guys again, this light color in Craving. And then the dark color, so this dark bronzy color right here looks like that, which as you guys can see is not really showing up too much on my skin because I am pretty similar to that color. And then that is what this one looks like. So this is a very glowy, pretty sort of color. So the reason for why they are called Dual Intensity is because you can use them wet or dry, which I know sounds crazy for a blush. I haven't really heard of any blushes that you can, you know, use wet to get a really cool, like, fun effect. What this will do is it'll make it like a watercolor type of effect. It's going to be not very opaque, not opaque at all, actually. You're still going to be able to see your skin through it, and it is a very satiny sheen to all of them. So no matter what quad, or I mean what duo you get, it does have that satin look. So if that's something you don't like, then I wouldn't go for them because there's no matte option for these. If you use them wet, let me show you what happened to the intensity. So I have this quad right here. And that is what happens to it wet. Let me swatch this. So that is wet for that dark color in Craving. Then for the dark color in here, that is what it looks like. So it does intensify, but it doesn't intensify the way an eyeshadow does when you foil it, basically. When you foil an eyeshadow, it becomes a lot brighter, a lot more pigmented, and it sort of like really stands out. With these, it does stand out, but not in a weird way, because imagine if you made something like this so super pigmented for blush, and then it's wet. You don't want like a patchy look, you know, on your cheeks, and that's not actually what happens, which is awesome. Also, these are magnetic, which is awesome. It feels super high-end. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is show you guys how I use this, but let me tell you guys really quick. I think my favorite part about this is that even when used dry, I feel like they look beautiful, and these colors don't get sealed. If you know what I'm talking about, I basically mean that a lot of times when you use eyeshadows and you wet a brush with some sort of product, either water or Fix Plus or whatever, and then you use the eyeshadow, that same area of the eyeshadow that you have touched now hardens, and the next time you try to use it dry, it's sort of like crisp, and the color doesn't actually come off, so there's really no color payoff anymore. This does not happen to these, which is awesome. So whatever formula it's made of, it stays that way and it does not change even though you are foiling it for the most part. Nars also came out with this brush right here, which is the dual intensity blush brush, and this is made of nylon, so it is synthetic bristles. It's also really small, as you guys can see. It fits into this perfectly. You guys can definitely see like how small that is. You don't have to have that. I also have tried to use it with a MAC 130, also a very small brush. My only thing about this is that, as you can see, it's not as densely packed as this brush is, and because of that you can get a little bit streaky, which can be a little bit of a problem. So I would recommend getting this brush if you do want to use this product. You don't have to, you can definitely experiment and see how you like to use it, but in my experience this has been the easiest brush to use with this product, and this is $42, which is also pretty hefty. So what I would have to say is that I think these are super expensive. I wish they were cheaper because it is a lot of product, yes, but I would have preferred it if it was just one color in here as opposed to two, because in every quad I feel like I prefer the blush shade to the highlight shade, and the highlight shade is very good as well, but I mean, I have so many highlighters, I don't feel like you need to have like such a variant amount of highlighters, just because most people stick to like either highlighters that are gold based or silver based or rose gold or something, and they just kind of use it all the time. So I feel like you don't need like super fancy highlighters in terms of the undertone, etc. So that is my reasoning behind that. Also, what I do like about this is that even when you use this wet, it does not take off the foundation under your makeup, which I think is attributed to this brush. I did notice when I used this brush that was happening, so this brush is probably the best way to go. And there's a specific method to using this, which I'm going to show you guys. So overall, I like these. It's very pretty. However, keep in mind that it has a very strong sheen to it. So if you have very textured skin, it probably will show through. And I know that that's slightly, you know, kind of like the big problem with people who have textured skin. Even like me, I've been breaking out a lot this whole week. So I do have textured skin, and this sort of accentuates that as opposed to hiding that in the matte form that you would if this was a matte color. But I'm going to show you guys how to use this wet and dry. Okay, so for the dry version, I'm going to use the Nars Yachio brush. You can use whatever brush you want, but I just really like this. And I'm going to show you guys how to use this one dry, just because I really like how this looks dry. So I'm just going to pick it up, and this is so pigmented. Can you guys see like how much powder has come off? Look at that. Super, super pigmented. So to apply it dry, you just put it on like a normal blush. I really love how luminous this looks even dry, like this particular color. And this is my favorite for when I'm doing like super dark eyes, or I just kind of want my whole look to even be subtle where I don't want to do too much. This is one of my favorites for that. So that's very lightly put on. I'm just going to build it on a little bit more so you guys can see how gorgeous that is just by itself. This I wore last week to a blogger event, and I just loved when my pictures came out. It just looked luminous and glowy, and that's something that I've been looking for a long time. I didn't think a powder product could give me that, so that is what that looks like. And then I'm also going to use this highlight color right here, the gold one, also dry, so you can get an idea of what this looks like. So that is that. These are super pigmented, and I feel like they look like they're creams from far away, and if somebody did not know that these were powder products, you might not think that when you see that on somebody's skin. So they've got a really cool luminosity that looks expensive and that looks really good. And then for wet, I'm going to show you guys how to use this one wet, because I feel like this one's a much better product to be used wet. So I'm using the original Nars brush for this. I have a cup of water. I'm literally just dipping it in there like that, taking it out, wiping it off, because you don't want it to be soaking wet, but you want it to be, you know, decently wet. I prefer this method to using Fix Plus, because I feel like you really waste Fix Plus using it for something like this, and you have to spray on quite a lot to get it damp. So I'm going in like that. You're literally not going to see much on your brush. You will see like that much. And I'm going to start in the back, because if this comes off too dark, at least it's towards the back. I'm going to start right here. And you can do little roundward sweeping motions to get this towards the front. So just like that. Keep in mind you have to be careful about your blush application when you're using a method like this, because it's going to be hard to cover up if you make a mistake. Okay, so that is the sort of watercolor effect that you get when it is wet like that. And you can keep adding. But see, it's not that somebody can tell that you've, you know, put this on with water. It looks just really pretty. I like that it's really understated. And what I love is that even though we're basically foiling the brush and foiling a blush, it doesn't look like super harsh or anything like that. It actually just looks like it's coming from within your skin. And that is the watercolor effect that they're going for. I know that Nars says to basically do little round motions like that, but I'm sort of preferring to do this little sweeping motion to get it forward. So that is what that looks like wet. This is also a really, really pretty color dry, so I'm going to show you guys. It is a little bit damp, but nothing much. I'm going to use a dry brush and just put this on top so you guys can see what this looks like. So as you guys can see, none of them are very harsh at all, which I really like. So let me show you guys this little guy right here. Actually, let me show you guys wet for this little highlight color. So same brush. What's really interesting is that even though I just use this with a darker color, it doesn't really transfer when I use it with this color. So again, I'm just going to go in, wet my brush, like very little. And just put it on like that, and somehow a lot came out this time. But you're just going to blend that out. Just like that. So as you guys can already tell, this is pretty bright. And then I just went in with my fingers to sort of get it to go into the skin as opposed to sit on top and look like two separate colors. So just as our highlight right there. So again, a very bright highlight, but it looks very, very, very pretty from far and close. And it definitely looks like a cream product. It does not look like a powder product. So that is what both the colors look like. This is dry and this is jubilation, which is these lighter colors. This color particularly, I don't like how it looks wet. It just looks way too shiny. Like you've got like way too much highlighter on. So this particular color I like dry. This one I really, really like wet. So that is what this looks like. I also have swatches and pictures and all that kind of information up on my blog, as well as if you guys wanted to read a quick review as opposed to watch a video, all that information is up there.